Well, thank you for being here this morning. We just concluded a very successful special political conference with our special guest, President Donald J. Trump. He was warmly welcomed by the House Republican Conference. We are 100% unified behind his candidacy and are ready to get to work on behalf of the American people to secure the border, unleash American energy independence, bring back peace through strength, stand up for election integrity, and defeat this illegal weaponization of the justice system. It was a unifying event, and I'm grateful to the president for answering questions from our colleagues today. I want to turn it over to our NRCC chair, Richard Hudson.
I'm Richard Hudson, chairman of the NRCC. We just had a great meeting with President Trump. President Trump understands how important it is that we grow our House majority and how important that is to his success for his next term. And we're committed to working very closely with him. We appreciate the partnership with him. Together with President Trump, we're going to grow this House majority, and then together we're going to fix the mess created by Joe Biden, because the American people are desperate for change. They're desperate for us to save this country, and together we're going to do that. Thank you.
I echo those comments. I'm going to add, anybody who thought that this president was going to be down after the sham trial, after that crooked trial that we saw in New York, think again. It's only given him even more energy. And what he did for us upstairs just now is he showed us that energy and he showed us that positive outlook despite all the garbage they've been throwing at him with their lawfare and their nonsense. They are desperate. They realize Donald Trump is crushing this election. The baseball game, I think we were told it's a harbinger of what's going to happen in the fall, that 31-10. Donald Trump is going to win. Donald Trump is going to help us win. We're going to be able to fix the country when it happens. He was great. Yes. And I got the leader.
Thank you, Whip. We just had a great, resounding speech by President Trump. And if you look at the applause, standing ovations, a lot of, as Elise said, a lot of unifying messages from President Trump, but also optimistic messages. President Trump talked a lot about what we need to do to get our country back on track, spent a lot of time talking about securing America's border and why that's so important to our national security. Talked about the fact that we have Russian warships off of our coast right now, off of America's coast, because of Joe Biden's weakness and the difference between strong leadership and President Trump. President Trump talked a lot, too, about how to get the economy back on track and reduce inflation for those families who are struggling all across America. Families can't afford to buy groceries, can't afford to fill up their cars because of the failed policies of Joe Biden. And President Trump talked about what we can do working with a Republican Congress to fix these problems in January, but it all starts November 5th. And we are incredibly unified in working with President Trump to get him elected so that we can work with him to fix these serious problems that our country faces. And President Trump gave a great tribute to our speaker, Mike Johnson.
Thank you, Leader Scalise and Whip Emmer and our conference chair Stefanik and our NRCC chair Richard Hudson. This is a great leadership team, and it was our great pleasure to host the president this morning, the 45th president, who will soon to be reelected as the 47th president. President Trump brought an extraordinary amount of energy and excitement and enthusiasm this morning. That is what we're seeing in the party throughout the country. Many of us are traveling the country. I do it endlessly. I've been in 29 states and done events in 123 cities, and we go to blue states and swing districts and everywhere in between. And there is something happening in the country. That's the phrase I used to introduce the president this morning, and he repeated the phrase a number of times in his own remarks because he's feeling and seeing that as well. He had 107,000 people turn out to a rally in New Jersey. He's going coast to coast as we are, and we're all seeing the same thing. People recognize right now in this country that this will be the most consequential election, certainly of our lifetimes, and probably maybe in the last century or more in America. Everything is at stake. The Biden administration and President Biden have made a mess of every area of public policy, and everyone in the country knows it. And so they're anxious for answers. They want a response to the things that have them so fed up. And our party is there to provide them. We have an extraordinary stable of candidates who are out there running great campaigns across the country. Our incumbents are in great shape. The challengers that we've recruited to flip some of these seats from blue back to red are doing extraordinarily well, and we believe we're headed for a great November. We don't take anything for granted. You have to run like you're 10 points behind. But we are very encouraged by the polling that shows what we know intuitively, and that is this thing is trending certainly in the right direction. And we believe that we're going to win back the White House and the Senate and grow the House majority. And when we do that, we will not waste a moment. We will be working on a very aggressive agenda to fix all the great problems facing this country right now. We talked a little bit about that today with President Trump. We talked about how to grow this House majority and how he will help in doing so, and then how we'll help him as well. And this is a unified effort by the party. We're feeling good. As we walked out of the room today, one of our colleagues walked up to me who's been around a long time, been in Congress a long time. He said, I feel better, I feel more confident, more energy, more enthusiasm right now than I've felt in probably 40 years in politics. And I think that is probably a good indication of how people are feeling out there in the country. Something is happening, and we're excited about that. We'll take a few questions. Yes, sir.
On the legislative front, President Trump has talked a lot about his frustration with the convictions facing him and the legal challenges. Does he feel that you are doing enough as House Republicans to fight against that? And in particular, the Russell Fry bill, did he mention that? And can you commit now to moving that forward after the president's address?
Yeah, we're working on the Russell Fry bill. I think it's a good idea, and that basically is a simple concept. It's that if a president or vice president is challenged in court, in a state court, they would have the right to remove it to a federal court. That's a very common sense notion. It's something that's already in practice for federal judges and members of Congress. It should apply to the executive branch as well, and I think it shouldn't even be a controversial notion. He didn't bring up that specific piece of legislation. He did talk about his concern about the lawfare that's been waged against him, and we all know it. And I made the point in my introduction of him that it's backfired fantastically on the Democrat Party and the activists who are trying to use our judicial system to exact political vendettas against the primary opponent that they have for the control of the country. And what we've seen is outrageous, and we've also seen the polling and the fundraising and everything else go in the direction of the target. President Trump has set fundraising records. He raised $53 million in the first 24 hours after the verdict in that terrible, bogus trial in Manhattan. And I think that shows that people understand what's happening here. We also set fundraising records, and we've continued to. He's announced he's raised over $400 million since the verdict came down, and there's much more to come. And you know why? Because people see that that is a threat to our republic. They see that that's a threat to our system of justice, and they want to push back. And so in many ways, President Trump has become a symbol of that, pushing back against corruption, the deep state, the weaponization of the judicial system, and that's a very encouraging development. So I think that he made the point every time they indicted him, his polls went up. That's right, because people see exactly what's happening here, and we have to fix it, and we will.
Does the former president give his endorsement to this leadership team, and does he want you to continue to be the speaker after the November election?
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause. He said, I'm doing a very good job. I mean, we're grateful for that. Look, we have to have continuity in leadership. We have to have a plan, and it has to be very carefully executed. When he became president for the first time in 2017, I was a freshman in Congress at the time, and a lot of people on Capitol Hill didn't expect that would be the eventuality. They didn't actually believe that we would have unified government where the Republican Party would control the White House, the Senate, and the House. And so we lost a few steps, frankly, in the beginning of that Congress, the 115th Congress, because the plan was not fully prepared and the implementation lagged a little bit. We're not going to make that mistake again. And so what we're doing right now, you never put the cart before the horse, but we have to plan to lead because there's so many problems to fix. And so we're working through that right now. I spend a lot of time talking with President Trump about what happens after the election, and we have to do that. It's our responsibility. I'll be with him again in Mar-a-Lago on Monday. We'll be talking about more of this and some of the races out there. He's excited. We're excited. We really think this will happen. So it's a good working relationship. Yes, sir.
Trump brought up abortion, that Republicans you encourage Republicans to support exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. Is that something that Republicans should be getting behind on those exceptions?
Well, President Trump, the way he addressed the issue this morning is he said, make sure that you exercise your own conscience, talk about it, share your conviction, and do that in a way that makes sense to people. And I think he had made a good point. He has said that after the Dobbs decision that the states are handling the issue right now, and that's where he's comfortable keeping it. And We've made the point that before you can have political consensus on a difficult issue, you have to have cultural consensus. And right now, we just don't have the numbers in Congress to do anything on the federal level, and that's just the reality. I mean, to get 60 votes in the Senate on something would be a great challenge. So we don't sacrifice any core principle. We all believe in the sanctity of human life, and everyone has to go to their districts and explain it in their own way. And President Trump encouraged everyone to do that. I think that's important. Another question?
Last one, if you don't have a question.
Front, there's some number of incumbents in that room who Trump has endorsed against. Two come to mind, Dan Newhouse and Bob Good. How frustrating is it to see the leader of the party, who you all agree has unified the Republican Party, still taking shots at members who you have to defend?
Well, look, President Trump has been a great partner overall and has endorsed, I think his record, I think it's 285-0 in candidates that he's supported. And so he's been very helpful to us. He's worked along the way. And look, as the Speaker, my job is to protect all the incumbents, and I'm out doing that to the best of my ability. And each one of these races are individual, and they're going to be determined by the people on the ground. So our incumbents are out running the best races they can, and I think they'll all perform well in the end. So thank you all. We appreciate the time.